Today what I'm going to do is go over this baler that I bought earlier. I think I bought it after April. I don't recall exactly the date anymore, but I know I bought it around that time frame. And it was something that I researched and then I reached out and bought it this year. Oftentimes there's different promotions depending upon the time of year, how many implements you buy, veterans discount, recommendations, etc. So to give you a ballpark of what this baler is going to cost you, just figure around $6,000. And I know that sounds like a lot to some people. It sounds like a lot to me. Thinking about this is a major investment for your farm. Is it worth it? Is it something that you think you should have? Can you just buy hay? Is it cheaper to buy an old tractor and an old baler? Those are all factors. I've had old tractors, I've had old balers, and what you don't want is breakdowns in the field. Not saying new stuff doesn't break down, and I'll get to that too, but storage consideration, parts availability. So there's a lot of factors to consider when you buy one of these or any baler. So, hindsight being 2020, would I buy this again? Wait till the end and I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is this video is going to be about this Ibex TX31 twine baler that I bought with my own money. Nobody promoted this. I'm not sponsored by anybody, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion. So I hope you stick around for the entire video. I've got a lot to say, and hopefully this will help you decide whether or not this is something that's going to be a good fit for you or not. So start out, I'll take the sheet off it. I keep it in the barn. That was a consideration when I bought it. I wanted to buy something I could keep under cover. I don't like to leave stuff outside. I've got an extra roll of twine here. The twine that you get with these and the twine that you buy is jute, and it's decent quality. Problem I did run into some of it is that it frays. So you can buy, as long as it's 9,000, you can buy sisal twine. You don't really want to put poly through this. If you do, you have to make some adjustments and put some, no skid or some kind of tape on the rollers to make it catch better. This is, I would say, I'm not going to buy this again. I bought a lot of this with the baler. I did have some troubles. The dealership did send me a bunch of new ones, and I was able to finish the season. But looking over here, I probably have about 10 rolls left, so it's going to be a little bit before I buy new twine. But I will warn you ahead of time, using this twine, you are opening yourself up to some quality control issues and some other things. But the one thing I will tell you about jute is that it's biodegradable. Twine is one of those things that was in my consideration. I don't want poly, I don't want net wrap, I don't want plastic, I hate plastic. So jute was where I'm at with this, and sisal is also biodegradable. I mean, it takes a little bit, but at least it doesn't have a half-life of 3 millennium. Now, the overview of this baler, you can see I've got the drive shaft disconnected. It's just a mini round baler, and it basically works exactly like a regular round baler. It does the exact same thing, and I'll show you some videos of it working. But let's go over some of the mechanics of this and some of the details, and this will help you make your choices. If you want to take a look more at this, I did have a couple of videos earlier, so go back and search those. I'll link it, I'll pin it to the top where you can go back and see those videos of it operating, and also where I kind of did like an overview of how to set it up and everything. That's not what this is about. This is not a setup video. This is not, we're going to take it out in the field video. This is me giving you my end of season. I put almost 400 bales through this thing this year, and this is my opinion of this baler. Now there are a couple options you can get. There's the option of a tow hitch. So you raise the draft arms of your 3-point hitch. There's a bar that goes across. It's just a standard flat drawbar, and it goes across and it hooks into here, and the drive shaft goes underneath, and what that does is that allows you to make turns at the end of the row. That option I did not buy. I didn't want it, but that option, I don't know what it is right now. At the time in April, it was around $500. I think it's closer to $800 now. So you should go check that out if that's something you're interested in. But what that does is allows you to basically tow it like a trailer. I didn't want that because, number one, it just seemed like an option that was a lot of money for something I didn't need. Now this baler gets transported around a lot of my fields here. If you've been with my channel for any length of time, you know that my fields are kind of scattered around the farm. I've got roads you have to go to. So dragging this thing around the farm with these little tires and the basket 4 inches off the ground when I've got rocks, didn't sound like something I wanted to do. It actually worked out pretty well for me. What I did is I just used the 3-point hitch, and I raked my windrows parallel to each other, and I would just go to the end, lift it up, and come back down. I did have some sweeps in some of them just because of the fields were irregular, And what I would do is just pick the 3-point hitch up just enough so the wheels were kind of skating on top of the grass. The tractor was doing most of the work as far as keeping the baler up. The wheels were just kind of there. That to me worked out pretty well. The only time that would, come into any kind of issues if you are turning, and it does when you're kind of running across the top of the grass, if the grass or the ground is not even, you are turning it and you are putting some friction on the tires, and especially when your 3-point hitch is getting pulled one side or the other, so keep that in mind when you're doing that. But to me, the drawbar is not worth the money. What I did spring for, and the jury's out on whether or not that was a good choice, was I bought this kit right here. It's in a little Pelican case, and there's a battery in here, and it's wired in, and you get a fob, and what happens is when the bale full indicator goes off, the arm will drop. It triggers in here this little switch. That's when you stop the tractor. It builds the bale, and then you push, the A button. It opens the back, and you can set this up so the A button will open it and close it. It'll open it, eject, close, or you can make it so you have to A open and then wait for it to come out and then A open again. So this option here, I can't tell you off the top of my head how much it was, but let's just say around $1,000. I know it was really expensive. Hindsight being 2020, I don't know that option was worth it either. I did run into some issues because even though this battery is really good and it does last pretty much all day, you've also got a little battery in the fob here, and so if that little watch battery goes bad while you're in the middle of haying, you're SOL, because now you can't open the back. There's a little switch in here, and it's changed. You can see I need to clean this out a little better, but it's down in behind here, and this is your hydraulic pump right here, and the hydraulic pump is separate. So as long as you have tractor power going through the PTO, the hydraulic pump is working. Even if you shear pin, this is still going to work. And something else we'll talk about here in a minute. What happens is you push that, and it just sends RF signal back here. This receives it, opens the chute, and closes it. You can test it a couple different ways, but the problem is if that goes dead, like say you forgot it on, you were out in the field, you quit for the day, you come back out, and you go, crap, I left this on all night. It's dead. The hay's ready. Rain's coming, or the fob goes dead. I don't know how else to say it, but you're shit out of luck. You're forked, absolutely forked. So that's an issue. Whereas if you don't have this, it's just a 9-volt battery, and there's a rope pull. It opens. So hindsight being 2020, knowing what I know, I probably would not buy this again. It was a lot of money for something that I didn't feel like I got a good reward. Now, I need you to understand, these opinions are mine and yours may be different. There was no way to test this baler out before I bought it. I don't know that dealers do it anymore, but you used to be able to go get a piece of equipment, the dealer would drop it off, you'd use it for a little bit, demonstrate it, and then you could buy it. We still have like Maine farm days and stuff where you can go out and they'll demo equipment. But when you're buying something like this, there's no try before you buy. That's not an option. So it's buy it and then try it, and that always doesn't always work out. Now I really want to like this baler. In theory, it's pretty well thought out. It's pretty well engineered. So when you look at the videos online, there's not a lot. There's a couple good videos, but when you watch them for a few minutes or you dig into it, you realize that the video filmographer was sponsored by the machine dealer. So that doesn't really bode well for me. If I'm sponsored by somebody and they're paying me money to demonstrate a product, I'm probably not going to say a lot of bad things about it. So I don't accept money. I don't do sponsorships. The only thing I do is if I find something I really like on Amazon, I'll put a link and direct you to that, and I get a small commission, but I won't send you to something that I don't personally like. And I've turned down a lot of sponsorships because I just feel dirty. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel dirty by getting a sponsorship to demonstrate a piece of equipment that I may or may not like, and then I feel like, well, this company gave me money to demonstrate something. I'm going to tell them it's a piece of crap or I don't like it. So, I just feel dirty, so I won't do it. And I also feel like, the demonstration or the person doing the film, their credibility may not be that good. So I'm going to go through this more so than I already have, but I'm just kind of, taking these little side tangents as I go to tell you some things that are really what I feel like are important. This right here is your bale full indicator, and this rod right here will come up as the bale is built. And this won't even move until it's about right here. And then you have about, I don't know how much hay you've got in your windrow, but mine are pretty big, so about 30 foot of windrow, and this thing drops, the alarm goes off, and you got to stop and kick the bale out. So you didn't have any warning. This probably either needs to be redesigned or just removed because it's pretty much useless. Even the dealership doesn't like it because they don't really give you enough warning. We're going to go through a lot of the parts and pieces of this. So in here is your twine tray, and it's really simple to feed the twine through. There's a couple videos where somebody shows you how to feed the twine, but they didn't show you the right way, so don't pay attention. If you want to see how to feed the twine, go right to the Ibex or Tractor Tools Direct YouTube page, or look in your owner's manual and do it that way. Don't look at somebody's YouTube video on how to feed this, because I watched it and they did it wrong. So there's a certain way to do this, and I won't show you because it's not important right now, but just be careful when you watch people's YouTube videos about how to set stuff up, because oftentimes they're not doing it right. So that's just something to be careful of. But I don't have any issue with feeding the twine. That wasn't a problem at all. I don't have a problem with this Pelican case. The battery was fine. I didn't have any issue with that as long as you're not an idiot and forgot to turn it off. So this just goes in here, and there's a little... And that went off because the arm is down, the twine arm dropped, and so it's hitting the switch. But this is the battery, and this is all the controls, and this also operates the power for the chute, or the eject, the tailgate, however you want to say that. Get in here. Here's your twine arm. I don't have any issues with anything in here. This is all pretty easy to access, easy to lubricate, no problems whatsoever. Like I said, feeding the twine through, no problems there. We'll go back down to the dirty part, and yeah, I know I have to clean it off. I went through and kind of cleaned the other side, but I didn't. And I kind of left this like this because I want you to see how dirty it does get. There's a lot of dust and chaff that gets in here. So you want to use maybe like motorcycle grease, or I use WD-40 Specialist. It's silicone, and it doesn't draw the dirt. So you don't want to put like regular axle grease or something, or corn head grease on these chains, because what that does is that just pulls more dust and dirt in there. So put the grease in the grease fittings, use something else on these chains. And like I said, I like the WD-45 Specialist. It's just silicone, and that doesn't draw the dirt in. Here's your fill for your hydraulic tank reservoir, and I did have some issues with that, but I fixed it. I didn't have any issues with anything here, and you can see how the intricacies of the twine come out. And like I said, it's really simple once you have done it a couple times, but no issues whatsoever with any of this at all. Looking at this side here, you can see more chains. So every one of these sprockets right here goes to a roller, and the rollers work just like on a regular round baler. All these rollers are pulling the hay in and circling it and rolling it into a hay bale. And I'll show you what one of those bales looks like. But you've got all these different chains and everything, so keeping that lubricated, tight, operational, it's not a big deal. It's pretty easy. It is. I didn't use this thing for 20 minutes, and this rod broke, and they sent me another one. It was under warranty, but I didn't like it very much. So what I did is I had some 3/8 threaded rod here. I just ran it back through, double nutted it, and I can still adjust. What you want to do, just really quickly, is you want to make sure you got some tension on there, but not too much, because if you get too much, then when you start feeling the bearings and the gears and the chains getting hot, you've got it too tight. You don't want it too loose because it'll strip the sprockets off. So it's kind of a fine art of figuring out where the sweet spot is for tightness. People will be like, you push it down an inch or whatever, but if you push it down too much, like I said, it spins. It's just a thing. These doors don't really like to stay open very well, and they kind of get chintzy. You've got this thing right here. You have to make sure you flip this flap forward when you open the door. Otherwise, if you've got the thing up, it's another thing. So not a big deal. Down here's your slip clutch, and you have to set that correctly. And what the slip clutch does, if you hit an obstruction, it'll slip. But you've also got a shear pin here, and I went through a slew of those things. They're $1 a piece. I ended up just looking at what kind of bolt it is, and if you look at the top, you'll see some numbers on it. So you can just go source the same bolt somewhere else, and it's the same bolt because it has the same numbers on it, and those numbers will tell you the hardness and the grade of it. So $1 a piece from the dealership, and I'm gonna take a wag here, but I'm gonna say 10 shear bolts for every 100 bales. No kidding. It's just that's what it went through, and I wasn't abusing it. So I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. But anyway, shear bolts, your slip clutch, not a big deal. What you want to do though is you want to make sure that if you are, you want to eject the bale, you can, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But let's say you blew the shear pin, you've got some mess going on, you need to eject the bale. This is still going to turn, and so that gets really hot because it's spinning on here. So you don't want to be doing that any longer than you need to, just to get the bale. You just want to get the bale out and then stop doing this thing. But anyway, a lot of intricacies here, and it's not too big of a deal once you figure it out how to keep it going. But it's just something to be cognizant of, that I went through a slew of shear pins and I wasn't being hard on it. This right here raises and lowers the basket. So what I basically did is, since I was using it on the 3-point hitch, I didn't raise it. I just left it down because you're picking the thing up anyway. So I just left it in the working position. I didn't bother to put it in transport. There's not a lot of space in between where the baskets are, the strippers, the hay strippers in the basket, and the rollers. So there's a couple of problems that I'm going to talk about right now, and these are really important if you live in a climate like Maine. The manufacturer and the dealership wants you to cut the grass and bale it when it's 18 to 24 inches high for optimum baling. They don't want you to do it too short because it won't make good bales, or too long because it causes problems. However, here in Maine, we get a rainy season in May and June. So those are really good growing seasons for grass. And what happens is you can't get to it until July. Sometimes you can't get to it until August. So by then you've got 4-foot orchard grass. I'm not kidding, 4-foot orchard grass. It's heavy and thick. And you crawl along really, really slowly to get it through, because you don't want to jam too much hay in there, because you'll bust the shear pins or you'll jam it in the basket or the rollers. So the sweet spot, like I said, 18 to 24 inches tall, that's great. I wish I could do that, but that's not a thing. It's not a thing. Nobody around here can ever get to their hay until late June and usually July. So by then, like I said, it's 4 foot tall. I didn't realize that was going to be an issue when I bought this. So if you get grass that's heavy and thick and you can't cut it, when you watch the videos of other people doing it, they've got perfect grass, they've got perfect fields, they're squares, they cut it perfect height, there's no rocks, everything's perfect. It's like a laboratory setting, so it works great. If you live in an area where you've got some hills, some rocks, maybe some uneven terrain, that throws a whole new paint job on everything, because now you've got some little humps of dirt and you might catch the teeth on it, so you can break the teeth pretty easily. These are sprung teeth, but they still can break. You can bend the hay strippers in pretty easily, so it's really behoove of you to, one, make sure that you can cut your hay at optimum 2 foot tall, maximum. B, you have a decent field. You don't have any rocks. I mean, I've had other balers here before. It's not like I've never driven a baler before. I grew up on a dairy farm. We had balers. Those balers would run over rocks this tall. I'm not talking about, a rock. I'm talking about, this is Maine. We have rocks. So to find a field without rocks in Maine, there's not a lot. So any little rock with this thing can be a showstopper. Most of the time, if they're low enough, you'll just hear it scrape and it'll be fine. It'll still suck it in. But if you hit any kind of big rock, or if you get a little hump of dirt, you'll start seeing crap come through, and you'll probably blow a shear pin right there. And that may or may not be a problem, depending on how much hay you've got jammed in there. So if you've got, I'm going to throw a scenario, you've got 4 foot orchard grass, you're going really slowly because you know you're going to break a shear pin because you're probably overloading the basket. You hit an object, it may just be a rock, it might be, the moles made a hill, and you hit that molehill, and so it just puts just enough stress on the basket itself, so you bust a shear pin, and now you've got your baler chock-a-block full, or your feed is full of hay that's 4 feet long. You might be able to slowly spin it back up and get the bale out, or you might be all jammed up and you can't do anything, so you have to basically pop the hatch, get down on your back, on your belly, and reach in there and pull hay out for 40 minutes until you get it all cleaned out. So that's not fun. And this can happen, like I said, rocks, molehills, and if you have fields around woods, take your lawnmower or your bush hog and mow, 20 feet out away from the end of your tree row, because if you get sticks and stuff in there, that's going to cause a whole new slurry of problems. So you can't, that first windrow by the tree line, don't bale it, because it might be green. If it's green, you're going to fry the shear pins, you're going to overload the basket, you're going to stuff the thing full, and you're going to be in there on your belly for 40 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating. And I can't tell you how many times, more than I care to admit, this got overloaded, and I had to get down there and lose a lot of time fishing stuff out. And these right here on your wind, I call it a windshield, it's a wind something. But what this does is this keeps the hay from getting way up into the rollers, so the hay comes through. The pickup teeth grab it, pull it over the strippers, and this keeps it down so it gets sucked in. But if you get so much green 4-foot orchard grass in there, this thing is jammed up, the basket's jammed up. Now you've got strippers that are broken or bent, because these bend pretty easily. You've got those bent in, you might be missing a couple teeth. So now you've got hay down, you're trying to bale it, you just cleaned everything out, and you're like, crap, now my hay stripper's gonna be changed out, so you might have to change out a couple of those. So again, if you've got rough ground, you know, I'm talking about most people around here in Maine have this kind of fields. They're not uncommon. This is what we have. You're probably not going to be very happy with this. Now, if you happen to be in a place where the ground is as even as this barn floor, you can cut it at 18 to 24 inches. You can make perfect rows. This is the machine for you. This will work great. And yes, there are some places here in Maine that are like that, but they are not anywhere around me. So you got to go slow. You got to be aware of what you got going on. And yeah, this will work, but if the literature says you can do, 45, 50 bales an hour, more like 25. I know some of you are going to say that I'm abusive to my equipment. I don't know what I'm doing. I get it, okay? Go buy one of these and then come back to me. I want to say this is a great baler. Like I said, functionally, it works like it's supposed to. It does what it's designed to do. It takes hay in, makes a nice bale, puts it out. When you look up here in my loft, there's almost 400 bales, round bales. And I'll take you over here and show you some of these bales. They're nice little bales. They're easy to handle. They're a nice weight, because you can't bale the green stuff. You can't just say, I'm going to bale the green stuff from the edge and use it for mulch or, whatever. So these are decent bales. They're not hard to pick up, not hard to carry, and, they're cute. So, and the good thing about it too is if you're not a strong person, you can roll it. You can roll these into the bucket of your tractor. You can put your forks on your tractor or your manure forks and pick these up, roll them into the bucket. Collecting these hay bales is a piece of cake. Additionally, the hay conveyor that I have, even though it's designed for square bales, these work fine on it because of the way the twine is. It catches the teeth and it pulls it right up. So no issues there. It does kick the bales out. There's a little spring-loaded thing here. So what happens is you open the tailgate, the bale comes out, this pops back up, the bale can't come back in. This closes and you move along. Now, I've got one field that the grass doesn't grow in very well. It's up at the top of the hill up there. There's some rocks, but I rake around the rocks so I don't rake over the rocks if I can help it. Obviously sometimes you just can't help it, you just missed it. But I rake around it, and I think I did 49 bales up there. I didn't break a single shear pin. It was great. I was like, this is the machine. I love this machine. And I had a good day. It worked fine. I loved that I could carry it on my little tractor. I didn't need to buy a big tractor. I don't have to store it somewhere. I could just use my little 26 horsepower Mahindra, my little Max, carried it up there, baled the hay, came back down, and it was a great day. So this baler, I have it. It's mine. I'm probably not going to get rid of it anytime soon. This year was the learning curve, and I'm going to say that Tractor Tools Direct was extremely helpful, knowledgeable, very friendly, and they were they were really on the ball. Whenever I had issues, they got right back to me. They helped me out. They sent me parts. So the dealership is stellar. I couldn't tell you one bad thing about the dealership. They obviously want to move equipment. They want to get their name out there. They want to be good. They're great. I really had a good experience with getting this baler, getting it here. I will say that going to Fastenal and picking it up myself instead of having it dropped at the farm saved me about $400. So if you can get to a trucking terminal and you buy this, go do it, because you're going to save a bunch of money by switching to Geico. I'm kidding. You're going to save a bunch of money by not having it dropped off at the farm. So this year was a learning experience. I know that a lot of the time that I lost was because I didn't know. I was used to big equipment, big New Hollands, big John Deeres, stuff I grew up with that you could just go and it was fine. You can't do that with this. This is a little different. So a lot of this was a learning curve. A lot of it was breaking it in. The dealer told me, these things don't seem to work plug and play right out of the box. They rarely don't need some sort of tweaking. So these are a great deal. You can get these cheap. The dealership is stellar. There's great parts availability. It fits well in your buildings. You can use a small tractor. There's a lot of pros, a lot of pros to getting these small balers. And as long as you don't mind knowing this up front, that you can't do the green grass, the long grass, you can't do uneven terrain, and you're probably gonna have to do a little bit of work on it yourself, it's fine. And I really am optimistic that next year this baler is gonna be a lot better for me. I haven't ruled out going back to buying another big tractor and a round baler. You can get a Heston or a New Idea 3x4 round baler around here for $2,500 to $3,500. Generally in pretty good shape. They're oldish, but they work. And a tractor that will run that is going to cost you, for a decent tractor, no less than $5,000 to $6,000. And that's all relative to the part of the country you live in. So for what I've spent on this, plus probably $3,000, I could have went and bought a round baler, a regular 3x4 round baler, and like a Ford 4000 or like a John Deere 1020 or something. We're not talking about a massive new tractor. We're talking 40-year-old tractors, 50-year-old tractors. No, if you're gonna get a decent tractor around here that's gonna run this, you're looking at 50 years old. Okay, you're not gonna find a 1990 something tractor for $5,000. If anybody tells you they did, I don't believe them. So anyway, $6,000, brand new machine, can use my existing equipment, and it did what it was supposed to do as long as I used it in the conditions it was designed for. And I've outlined those to you. So you make your own choice about buying this, and I'm not trying to tell you not to. I'm not going to tell you to. I'm saying if you think that you are fine with working on some stuff yourself, you think you can get the hay at the right height, and you are confident about your bale making abilities, I think you should buy this baler. I think it's a great baler. I will not say this is the piece of junk, because it's not. It's not a piece of junk. It does exactly what it's designed to do in the conditions it was designed for. So that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really hope that this has helped you to make up your mind. If you've seen these out there and you're trying to be like, do I buy one or do I not? If you've got the conditions and all those other things I mentioned, this is the baler for you. This will work great. If you've got rough terrain, maybe not. But like I said, I wish there was more videos. I wish there was more people out there who had these. They demonstrated in all different environments. There's only a couple of videos besides mine out there, and they are 100% endorsed or sponsored by either the dealership or the manufacturer. And of course, they're not going to say anything bad about them. They're going to have textbook conditions. So keep that in mind when you watch the videos about anything you buy. Is the person who's given those videos sponsored by the manufacturer of the thing they're selling. That's really important. You should know that. I appreciate you watching, and I hope to talk to you again soon. And all of those of you who have been with me through, I think I've been 5 years now with YouTube, I appreciate you very much. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Thanks.